Hello and welcome to GuySuCo Roundup. I'm your host, Curtis Eatel. As the estates which remain in sugar production prepare for the second crop, there is commitment to the cause of moving towards a resilient and sustainable business. This week's program informs of the strides made and commitments shown. Do stay tuned for more on this week's special program of GuySuCo Roundup.
From the very land that gave sugar around the world the name Demerara comes the finest quality of cane sugar, Demerara Gold. Enjoy the real thing from the original source, the rich, fertile Demerara coastline where sugarcane has been harvested since the mid-17th century. The result is here for you to enjoy. Wherever this unique sugar flavor is needed, Demerara Gold is the ingredient that will always create a stir.
Welcome back. Partnerships bring expectations on both sides. GuySuCo, as the hub through which communities are linked, stands tall, buoyed by support as partners pledge commitment to a common goal. Georgiana Bolo has more.
Thank you, Curtis. Hello, everyone. In this phase of the corporation's life, developing partnerships to ensure full participation and involvement continues. This round, the regional democratic councils in estate communities will participate as stakeholders and be involved in decision-making. Employees, their families, and members of the community, therefore, are invited to attend outreaches beginning Monday, July 16 at the Uitvlugt Community Centre. Albion Community Centre is the venue for the East Berbice community on July 17. And Blairmont Community Centre will be the venue for the meeting on July 19. Meanwhile, at the recent coordinating committee meeting to give direction, monitor and steer the outcomes of the Sustainable and Resilient Communities program, there has been more involvement, commitment, and a signal of national support.
Between 2016 and 2017, over 5,000 or 4,000 plus employees were made redundant. And as a corporation, we thought that you couldn't just make 4,000 plus employees redundant and not have a structured program in place to address the issues which would arise as a result of the restructuring program. And hence the corporation developed the Sustainable and Resilient Communities program, because the idea is that the restructuring would not only affect or impact on the ex-employees, but it would also impact on their families as well as communities, because the estates, the Rose Hall, Enmore Estate, Wales Estate, and Skeldon Estates, those were, as you know, estates are the biggest businesses in communities. And therefore, one estate transitioning, it means that the entire community will be impacted. So this program here is really to ensure that these communities do not fall apart. We thought that because these were our employees, and if we build a partnership, what we bring to the partnership would be the beneficiaries, because we know where these people are, we know who they are. And the other aspect in terms of our role was more facilitating, coordinating role. And so hence we will continue to play that facilitating, coordinating role. But we don't know how to train and to provide psychosocial support. We don't know how to train in terms of business and those other areas. So here is where the partnership is, as an approach, is critical to the successful implementation of the program. We'll go straight to Minister for him to give his remarks.
This recent development and the fact that we had to make an extraordinarily big decision, one that has historic proportions and of course is historical too, in that we had to right-size this industry, meant that there were going to be consequences. Of course, it was a courageous decision, but we also felt that it was an extraordinarily correct one. And it is important that the impacts in relation to the sugar industry being right-sized, we implement the decisions of the plan and the strategy as quickly as possible. As we move on to a more modern state, everything must be evidence-based. We love to do the anecdotal analysis and say, well, yes, this is happening because I've seen it out there and so on. And then sometimes there are lots of issues that are not fundamentally understood properly. When it is evidence-based through surveys, and surveys done by high-level institutions like the University of Ghana, as I understand that this survey might be done by, it is important then that the results and the data therefrom be used for the sector, but also be used by the authorities to ensure that we make the right policy decisions. I want to say it is an extraordinarily laudable thing that you're all doing for purposes of ensuring the implementation of these components and the alternative livelihoods, and I certainly commend you highly for that.
We're developing a business model, and the business model has 3 or 4 pillars. One pillar would be the hard side of the business, which is our sugar production entities at the 3 estates remaining in with GuySuCo. Those would be the Blairmont, Albion, and Uitvlugt. And so that's a hard side of our business. Another hard side of the business would be the diversification aspect, where these other estates like Rose Hall, Enmore, Wales, Skeldon, the monies which are recovered from the diversification from those estates will come back into building the 3 estates which remain in GuySuCo. So that's another hard side of the business because it deals with the finances. So there are 2 hard sides, if I put it that way, and there are 2 soft sides. The soft side of the business is, one of the soft side is this component here, our social development program, or sustainable, which is implemented through this Sustainable and Resilient Communities program. And then the other soft side is our change management, because with this level of disruption, you also have to integrate into your business model your change management as it relates to the business and how that change happens. So those are the 4 pillars upon which GuySuCo will move forward.
Head of the Human Resources component of our business has announced the reintroduction of the Performance Management System, which sets out to measure as objectively as possible the overall performance of staff members in both permanent and acting positions.
An organization that does not have a proper performance appraisal management system will die a natural death. An organization's health is determined on its performance, and the performance of the organization, which are based on set objectives, and those objectives are then cascaded to departments, and then within the departments you have units, and in those units you have individuals. So it seeks primarily to assess the performance of individuals against set objectives. And within the last 2 years, we have started the process. During that time, we had trained 217 managers how to execute the process, and we are now in the at that stage where we are in the process of reintroducing performance management into the corporation. At this point, the primary focus on the senior staff category, and the next level we will look at the lower level staff, which will be the junior staff and others.
Having completed training and in some cases refresher courses with management levels of staff recently, the Human Resources Department, through its training function, signaled the intention as a means through which strengths of human resources can be identified, while weaknesses are remedially addressed. With cane farmers playing an increasing role in agriculture farming at Uitvlugt, the Agriculture Research Centre has collaborated with the National Cane Farming Committee to run off an open day at the West Demerara location. It is envisioned that following the interactive sessions, cane farmers may approach the Agriculture Research Centre for further guidance in areas inclusive of breeding and selection, weeds management, and pest control.
We have here the agronomist in the estates is very that at Uitvlugt Estate is very familiar with these varieties. Now what happens is we develop the varieties, and as I told you, it takes a phenomenal long amount of time to develop these varieties. So we have to test the varieties in all soil types, we test it for disease, etc. When it finally gets approved at the research department, it comes here. Because we don't.
It is a dedicated area that we have that we are propagating to extend into the commercial fields. So you are fortunate to have a very clean stand of cane that will be taken back after deciding on which varieties you're taking back to your plot. This was an area that was abandoned for quite a lot of time, over 10 years thereabout, and we recently bring it back into cultivation. So we have chosen this area to propagate clean seed material for extension.
What we have here are newer selections. Now, what we brought you here to do is these are available to you for you to try. I'm not saying convert your whole farm, right? But if you have a lot of different things in your farm, you're less likely. So if you see one that goes well in your particular area, you could extend it, right? Now we have the varieties agronomists here, we have the estate agronomists here. So any question you want with these things, how much you can get, they will organize these things to you.
My name is Andrew Moore, the estate agronomist. First of all, I'd like to welcome you all to Uitvlugt Estate. Now, what we have, when we look to the left, is the variety DB 0375. Early part of last year, we received just a few bundles from ARC. Now, what we did, we planted 5 rows of this cane into the primary nursery. From then on, we actually drawn it down and we established it here. Now, the purpose of this is to carry it into stage 6 trial. I have some other varieties that already passed through the factory. Varieties such as D98239, which performed excellent, right, in terms of cane quality and so forth. We had like 19 bricks from the last evaluation, and in terms of tons cane per hectare, it performed excellent. We had like 98 tons cane per hectare. That's a variety I can confidently recommend to you right now because we already evaluated it. I will show you it as we proceed. Now, we also have the one that you saw in the lecture hall just now, which is the 9824. That is the very fat one what we saw. Now, we already did evaluation on that. We did it on soil 16, and we also planted it on the soil 23 soils, right? As of now, I can recommend that to the farmers.
As of this crop, we will be assisting you as the need be, and that is basically whatever part of the preparation you would like us to be part of with the payment process being highlighted to you, we will be bringing forth to you during the second half. What we have in terms of machinery to do the job, we have the expert Mr. Cosmac here, and we have just when we get out of this area, we will be viewing the machinery we will be using and the implements also, so we can have that first hand.
The implements and the tractors that we use in our tillage operation.
If you notice the difference between rice and sugar is that for sugar we need more depth, right? We need more depth. So once we're in some of the clay soils, we need to go as deep as possible. And so when we're using plows and the harrows, we go use the 28 this or higher, right? So you can, if you have the horsepower to pull a 32-inch, that might be good. If you don't have the horsepower to pull a 32-inch, then you might have to stay to the 28-inch, and so that you get at least 12 inches depth. But if you can get 15 to 18 inches depth, it's good, right? And that helps with what? Farmers, the deeper you break up the soil, what would that help the cane to do? Establish deeper roots, right?
Deeper roots.
And that's a plus for us. So these are some of the implements we use, and the tractors also.
On Wednesday, July 19, cane farmers will benefit from training inclusive of weed control in sugarcane at Uitvlugt. This opportunity comes in response to a request made by the National Cane Farming Committee to the corporation. Agriculture Research Centre's Weeds agronomist Ravi Prasad and National Cane Farming Manager Mr. Ravindra Punwa will facilitate the one-day exercise. In another strand of the Sustainable and Resilient Communities program, training delivered by the GuySuCo Training Centre to the first cohort of ex-employees and others in the Berbice region enters its fourth week.
We are proud of our institution that remains firm on the pillars of tradition, honor, and discipline. In this era of globalization and advancement in technology, we cannot continue to do the same thing over and over and expect different results. The way we work, learn, and live is getting more dynamic and involves rapid changes. So trainees, as you join this prestigious institution, give it your best shot, as you can never imagine where your new skill set can take you. Once again, congrats and welcome on board. Hope you enjoy your stay with us for the next 12 weekends. Thank you.
It is indeed an honor to present these brief remarks on behalf of the Minister of Agriculture and GuySuCo. The Honorable Noel Holder, Minister of Agriculture, would like to express his sincerest apology for being unable to attend this very significant event. However, he had a prior activity which could not have been rescheduled. The sugar industry is currently going through a transition, and most would admit that this process, though difficult, is necessary in order to align the industry based on the changes in both the wider external and local internal environment. The dynamics in the global sugar market is a key influencing factor for the restructuring of the sugar industry, not only in Guyana, but in many of the African, Caribbean, and Pacific ACP states. Last year, the government, through the state paper, laid the basis for a smaller GuySuCo with 3 estates, Albion, Blairmont, and Uitvlugt, while the other estates, Wales, Rose Hall, Enmore, and Skeldon, are to be divested and diversified. As a response to the changes in the industry, the Sustainable and Resilient Communities program was developed to provide support to the former employees, their families, and members of the communities where the 4 estates, Wales, Rose Hall, Enmore, and Skeldon, are located. The objectives of this program are essentially to develop a framework and implement a well-structured program to ensure that ex-employees, their families, and residents from these communities are able to adjust and even become stronger while the transition is taking place in the sugar industry. Hence, the 3 components of the Sustainable and Resilient Communities program include building more economic resilience into these communities, more social resilience into these communities, and environmental resilience into these communities also. This commissioning ceremony today is evidence of a successful partnership between the Ministry of Natural Resources, the Board of Industrial Training, and GuySuCo to reskill the ex-employees and other residents in the Region 6 communities, to give the ex-employees new skills, to prepare them for alternative employment, while at the same time it is upskilling residents in Region 6, basically providing the region with additional skilled residents. The involvement of the Ministry of Natural Resources is a key example of rerouting resources from other industries which are performing better to support industries which are not doing so well. Honorable Minister, the Ministry of Agriculture, through GuySuCo and the Coordinating Committee for the Sustainable and Resilient Communities Program, which is comprised of various government agencies, will continue to facilitate and coordinate the Sustainable and Resilient Communities Program, forging partnerships for its successful implementation and to ensure that ex-employees, their families, and communities are stable and continue to grow. On behalf of the Minister, I would like to encourage that this partnership is continued beyond this first cohort and in possibly other training areas also. To the trainees who will be attending or participating in the courses, I'd like to encourage you to make the best of this opportunity.
I bring greetings to you from the Honorable Minister of Education, Ms. Nicolette Henry, and the Chief Education Officer, Mr. Hodson. They are both wholeheartedly with you in this initiative this evening. Standard skill is wealth. And I want to pause there briefly. That is our motto in TVET, skill is wealth. We believe that when you acquire skill, there's a wealth you have that can be transformed to, if you want, financial wealth, or other forms of wealth. The Ministry of Education stands committed with the Ministry of Natural Resources, GuySuCo Board of Industrial Training, to provide you the requisites and relevant skills through the INSET initiative. The skills you acquire here, and probably for your further studies, hopefully at the Upper Country Industrial Training Center and the New Amsterdam Technical Institute, will definitely help you find that job, and most importantly, create a job for yourself and others. Ghana has stamped the name in the world as a major oil producing nation, notwithstanding that we are still about 20 months away from the first oil. We believe that this will come with it, as we already noted, opportunities for job creation and some other jobs itself. It behooves us all, therefore, to strategically position ourselves to benefit from all that we can accrue from this sector.
I've been in sugar for 40 years, starting on the 1977, September 23rd, until December 29, 2017. I've been in sugar. I've been trained in this institution in 1990. Unfortunately, all of my 4 sons had trained in the same institution in their lives. As participants, my expectation is that after we have finished this 120 hours, I may be able on my own to execute probably a piece of work or something as what I'm trained at. As participants, I want to share with you that the gentleman said at 78, the person finished schooling. I'm 59. I want to go as long as I live. Skills is wealth. I'm a qualified welder fabricator and also machinist. I'm doing electrical, it makes me a rounded personality. My wife was telling me, why are you going to school at this age? I said, sweetheart, I'm going to fix the fan, I'm going to fix the iron, I'm going to fix the washing machine and the blender for you. He said, okay, you don't have to pay for that. So like myself, I'm sure all of you here present, you do your best and will prove your worth, and that the sponsors of this program will have the value for their money. I want to see all of you back here on graduation day.
I am happy, I am pleased that it has borne fruit, and I'd like to congratulate both the staff of the training center, my own staff, representatives of GuySuCo, representatives of the Ministry of Agriculture, representatives of the Board of Industrial Training, and the representatives of the Ministry of Education for making this possible. In a few short months, oil is going to be produced in this country. It may seem like a pipe dream, it may seem to be something that is impossible. 400 years ago it was sugar. In a few months it will be petroleum. And this county, as the sun rises in the east, is not going to be left behind. Guyana will rise from Berbice. And that is why we have decided to prepare you. And in fact, this is the first such training program in the entire country in the east. And so I'd like to congratulate all of you for taking this brave step. I will be here at your graduation, and I will ensure, as Mr. Ahmad has asked, that if there's further need for certification, you shall have it, by whatever means necessary, legally of course. I wish you Godspeed, I wish you God's blessing, and I just ask that you trust in yourselves and believe that whatever it needs to get from one place to the other, you already have it in you, and no one can take that from you. No politician, no one can take that from you. You have what it takes to get you there, and so I am proud of all of you who responded to our call to come back, to be retrained, because a greater world, a better day awaits you. Thank you very much, and I formally declare this InStep program open, the Industry Skills Training Enhancement Program. And I recall when I sat to the staff, I said, we need to find an acronym that is positive, that is showing movement, that is taking us forward. And I was quite happy to see them come back to me with the words InStep. Thank you very much for this time.
This became effective on June 22 when the Ministry of Natural Resources partnered with GuySuCo to launch the Industry Skills Training Enhancements Program, InStep.
And with that, we've come to the end of this week's program of GuySuCo Roundup. Thank you for staying tuned, and do join us again next week. I'm your host, Curtis Ital. Goodbye.